still hearing Radio Nacional at Equatorial Guinea on 5005, but it's very weak and barely audible. This was May 7th at 0501 to 516 with some songs. Equatorial Guinea. Remember Tony Alamo, the gospel webster from Arkansas, who used to broadcast via Radio Africa when it really was transmitting from Equatorial Guinea. Well, news came through this week that he has died in prison. Ron Howard replies, first heard Tony's shortwave program back in April 2008 on 15190. Over the years, both of us often recorded appearing his programs even long after his conviction and being sent to prison. Here's quoting obituary in the Los Angeles Times. At one time, Hollywood street preacher whose apocalyptic ministry grew into a multi-million-dollar network of businesses and property before he was convicted of sexually abusing young girls he considered his wives, Tony Alamos died in prison at age 82. Once known for designing elaborately decorated jackets for celebrities such as Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley, Alamo died at a federal prison hospital in Butler, North Carolina, according to the Federal Bureau of Prisons, on May 2nd. The disgraced preacher was convicted in 2009 of charges that he took underage girls across state lines for sex, including a 9-year-old. The judges sentenced him to a maximum 175 years in prison, told him, one day you will face a higher and greater judge than me. May he have mercy on your soul. Our archives show there were lots of items about Alamo, circa 2008 to 2011. At his peak, he was on at least WWCR, WINV. What were they thinking? Without further explanation, Tom Taylor notifies us, dear EMR listeners, due to personal reasons, European Music Radio will be back on the air sometime later this year. All the best. Info in the German Radio Forum updates us on the situation with the superpower long-wave transmitter in Alloy, France on 162 kilohertz. Apparently summarizing French sources, no broadcaster has filed a serious application for using 162, so the carrier will remain silent without program audio in AM. The plain time signal application, the output has now been adjusted to 1100 kilowatts, with wristwatches for this system being mentioned as the primary reason of still running so much power. Quite by chance, my DST-1 car radio stopped on 13740, one of the memories I'd set up for other stations, May 7th of 1910, where I was then hearing Radio France International in French. In fact, the last few words of Macron's victory speech, and that was the first news I got, that Le Pen had been defeated. This news direct from Issoudun during a 1-hour broadcast on that frequency. We continue to have only one other hour in English on shortwave, which is 06 UT on 11905. Sometimes propagating over here. Richard Langley, visiting Hawaii, managed to make a recording of that particular occasion on May 8th with all the news about the election. However, he had to use the web receiver in the Netherlands, which we might have thought would be too close to France for good reception. Besides Port Blair, Andaman Islands, Ron Howard has been doing some more monitoring of India proper, such as AIR Delhi Kingsway on 4870.25. May 8th. It had an open carrier, but started audio at 1326, not the AIR interval signal. Scheduled to be in Nepali to follow. The Indonesian on the other side of 4870 continues at silent for more than a month. RRI Vamena, which was last heard on 4869.88. He also found that AIR Kurseong 4895 was off the air on May 7th and 8th. 4970 AIR Shillong. May 8th was another day of strong audio, as mentioned last week, but interference from OTH radar. A pop music show at 12:39 had a DJ in English, talking about the bands and singers, ending at 13:15 with their usual local ID. and another one missing was 5050. Isolal, as of May 8th, had not been heard for quite a while. Then on May 9th, he found 4895 was off the air again. 4970 once again had a strong audio. A news feed in English from Delhi at 12:30. On the same date, Wolfgang Büscher reported that he could detect Isolal on 5050 with a tiny signal even in Delhi at 1419 UT. So Ron says, I am not hearing him underneath a strong Guangxi Beibu Bay radio from China. In the past, I had no problem hearing AIR mixing with BBR, so the Indian mist had come down significantly in power. From the Beef Chronicle via Ivan Talon, April 12th, in communication of the British DX Club, Summerhill radio mast begins long wave goodbye from Ireland. Local Meath East TD Thomas Byrne says that he understands that despite the decision of RTE to continue transmitting on longwave 252 until 2019, the mast at Summerhill is coming to the end of its life anyway. It's at Clarkstown, Kilcock, near Summerhill. It's been mired in controversy since it was built nearly 30 years ago. For many years, Atlantic 252 was transmitted there to a UK audience, and in more recent years, RTE Radio 1. He says, I understand that the mast is coming to the end of its life. Informed sources tell me it'll be lucky to last until 2019. There's no further use envisaged for the mast, basically out-of-date technology. If you're looking for Afghanistan on 6100, note this from Ivo Ivanov in Bulgaria, the strange frequency of Voice of Kashmir, or Sidolia Kashmir, from Delhi, India on May 9th at 14:30 to 15:30. It was on 6100 instead of 6030. However, 6100 is scheduled for another broadcast in Kashmiri at 0730 to 0830. And on that date, May 9th, there was no signal anyway from Afghanistan external service starting at 15:30 on 6100 in English. The medium, high, very high, and super high frequencies, World of Radio 1877. Also bringing in the website worldofradio.com, all non-commercially. Thus, we very much appreciate voluntary financial support. Our thanks this week to Christopher James Gordon in Los Altos, California, who sent a check from a U.S. bank in U.S. funds, the amount a power of 2 to P.O. Box 1684, ENID OK 73702. One may also contribute via PayPal, not necessarily U.S. funds, to WRADIO@yahoo.com. Ron Howard in California has been logging several utility weather broadcasts from Asia, including HLL2 in Seoul, South Korea, 5857.5. May 5th at 1311. It was in English with weather conditions at different observatories around the country with wind direction, wind speed in meters per second, air pressure in hectopascals, and temperature in Celsius. As usual, the audio sounded somewhat muffled, but it was a good signal strength. 7350 is now the best frequency for us to hear Denge Kurdistani, including nice songs from the PKK terrorists. May 8th at 0241, it was 20 over 9. The broadcast is at 0230 to 0500 via France, so we're hearing it almost directly off the back. We used to hear in the winter a broadcast in our mornings on 11600 from France or other sites, but they just aren't making it like they did in the winter. We've had generally improving reception of Radio Kuwait's reactivated English service on shortwave 18 to 21 UT on 15540. Rick Delmage in Alberta. It says it has been coming in very well on some dates. They come on a few minutes before 18 UT, which has been recorded as the tail end of the Urdu language broadcast. That's not deliberate. The main newscast is at 1830. They play various segments of Western music as well as Mideast music. And there always seems to be something about the PBUH fellow. Apparently they come on late on certain days, such as May 4th, and Nick was not hearing them at 1804 at Halfrogen, Michigan was when he listened at 1945. Jose Ronaldo Xavier in Paraíba was listening on that occasion, and they did not go off the air at 2100, but continued for another 17 minutes in Arabic, apparently just sloppy ration. We also noticed that although they give the correct frequency, 15540, they always attach it to the 2500 band instead of 19. A mistake which originated years and years ago and has never been corrected. WBCQ is not the only station using the out-of-band frequency of 5130. Fortunately, the two are far apart and on the air at the same time, I think, and don't really bother each other. Both King Dushul in Germany using a remote receiver in India reports Kyrgyzstan Radio Sedaye Zindagi, which is a Christian program carried from Bishkek. It was on exactly 5129.976, May 9th at 1527 in Pashto. Reporting to Australian DX News, Robert in Bulgaria said this transmission on April 11th, which is translated to Voice of Life, was on the air at 1550 to 1750 UT, a Christian program with talks and religious songs. He says it was in Dari rather than Pashto. Maybe it's both. That's rather odd scheduling. I wonder if their clock was 10 minutes off on that date. African Pathways Radio, the English hour from Madagascar, World Voice is sometimes coming in well. 04 to 05 UT on 11825. May 4th, I listened to part of the program, including this day in history. We start off with some legitimate historical items for that particular day, ranging from killings at Kent State to International Respect for Chickens Day, but always lead up to a Bible verse. And that was followed by Creation Moment, this time about pain management, concluding that medicine doesn't matter because pain is caused by sin. Enough of that nonsense. We're going to pray that Africans don't fall for it. More interestingly, the next day, May 5th at 0410, I tuned in again to 11825, and there was dead air. But then there was some modulation cutting on, not in English, but in Arabic, cutting on and off. With only a few languages and a limited schedule on two transmitters, you would think that Madagascar World Voice could manage to match them up properly. We monitor the mighty KBC, VO now in Germany, on its new summer frequency, or I should say reactivated. It happens every May, 9925. For the UT Sunday weekly broadcast, North America at midnight, 02. It started out at X9, but was steadily weakening as the hour went on. And in fact, Craig Christie in Virginia, who produces a segment for the program, says that it just about faded out before his part came on by 0140. Not off to a good start, but we can only hope that over the summer, on the average, reception will improve. The How to Listen schedule page of Radio New Zealand International keeps changing, and it's not entirely clear what they mean, but it seems to imply they've reactivated their second transmitter in order to carry cyclone warnings. At least two different frequencies are shown, one in AM and one in DRM for certain transmissions. 1651 to 1835 on 9700 AM and 6115 DRM. 1836 to 1950, 9700 AM and 9760 DRM. 1951 to 2050, 11725 in AM and 11690 in DRM. These are at least Sunday through Friday. Meanwhile, we find the AM frequency 13840 doing well. It's 15720. It's on the air all the way from 2051 until 0458 daily. I was hearing it well at 8 at 0313. Here's a fun example of creating programming and transmitting. Several posts on the HFunderground.com board say that crystal ship showed up on CHU's inactive frequency 3330, and they were playing songs about time. I assume they will get off that frequency if CHU comes back. This is May 10th, between 0113 and 0214. At least 2 Papua New Guinea stations are still active or somewhat. On down in California notes that NBC Magan, May 8th, went off suddenly after the news at 12:07 on 3260. While 3275 had presumed NBC Southern Highlands, May 8th at 12:08 past 1318, but he could not make out any modulation on the carrier. The next day, May 9th, 3260 and 3275 were both silent. Bangkok Meteorological Radio Ron Howard heard on 8743 USB, May 5th at 1316 in English with Marine Weather and Shipping and giving their street address. Interval signal at 1319. Voice of Turkey, English to North America, achieved a good signal May 8th after 0300 on 9515 with news about the voters heading to the polls in France. By then, of course, the polls were closed and the result was known. TRT has previously admitted that news on the broadcast after 1830 are playbacks. Pastrami was the imaginative ID used by one of those U.S. military crypto message transmissions, May 9th at 0610 on 6739 USB, to read out a long string of letters and a few numbers phonetically. Brian D. Smith, W9IND, the manager at the annual Armed Forces Day cost-bound communications between military and media operators. This year is on Saturday, May 13th. Estonians also have a chance to get SL cards from military stations. Some long-gone call signs will be reactivated, such as November, Mike November, and November, CRCR, NSS at Annapolis, which hasn't been heard on the chat for about 40 years, will be participating. It's to be active from 13 until 02 UT on the CW and SSB with at least 3 transmitters continuously. From about 1,000 feet north of the North Helix house at the former location of Married Enlisted Quarters, field-based style operation using 50-foot military masts. ARRL says the Potomac Valley Radio Club and the U.S. Naval Academy Radio Club will operate MSS on the site of the 1918 Naval Radio Transmitting Station on Greenbury Point in Annapolis, across the Severn River from the U.S. Naval Academy. For more info, including frequencies, see www.usarmymars.org/home/announcements. Schedule changes at WRMI show 2 new times for World of Radio on 11/5/80, one we already heard on May 9th, Tuesday at 1800. And the other is UT Sunday at 0200. The Radio Ukraine broadcast being reduced to 5 days a week only. Many thanks to Ben Cobb for this information. An FCC application for an HF station at the historic Alpine Tower in New Jersey. The New York-based applicant, Paolo Komiaska, is involved in finance and philanthropy. He is a co-inventor of patents for forestry-derived products. I believe he is or was part of a beverage business called Vertical Water, made from maple trees, says Ben Cobb. He links to a 136-page PDF FCC application. I looked at the first 2 pages and gleaned this info. The application is by Terms TURMS Tech LLC, care of N4 in New York City. The primary business of which is broadcast and data services. It's for an international broadcast station with a VTE 10 kilowatt DRM transmitter using a 6-element Yagi antenna. On these frequencies, which I think are just placeholders in the middle of the band, 9.65, 11.85, 13.72, and 15.45 megahertz for 24/7 operation near Alpine in Bergen County, New Jersey. Paolo Komiaska is president, and Gian Antonio Bulgaroni is director of the latter admittedly, an alien of Italian nationality. This was dated 11 April. So it'll be interesting to see whether FCC grants a CP for this oddity. I wonder if a DRM transmitter of only 10 kilowatts is even eligible. Okay, now it's radiogram quoted a slightly different version. It's posted at WRMI.info.blogspot.com. Terms Tech LLC is applied for a license for a 10 kilowatt DRM transmitter in Alpine, New Jersey, with the antenna on an existing radar tower. At this point, it looks like their target is Europe and the Middle East with broadcast and data. The tower is adjacent to the famous Armstrong Tower, used by Edwin Armstrong during the early days of modern FM radio. On May 4th at Train White UT, I was hearing on 1480 KBXD in Dallas with a loop announcement with some Spanish and Bollywood music saying that the station is for rent. Give the phone number to call if anyone is interested. This loop repeated over and over. I listened again on May 10th, and this time all they were doing was an ID. This is KBXD Dallas with the session, and that repeated every 9 seconds. A DXer's dream for easy identification. So I wonder if that meant they have got a bite, but not yet implemented the new rental. One more marine weather catch reported by Ron Howard, this one from Ho Chi Minh Radio Coast Station, Vietnam, on 7906 and parallel 8294 USD. On the air only for 6 minutes from 1305 to 1311. Starts and ends with tones in Vietnamese, an ID and marine condition. He says Ho Chi Minh is the most powerful coastal station, so it is usually well heard. The propagation of a promoter G2 moderate to magnetic storms predicted May 17th and 21st. The TNC's peaking at 30 and 5 or 6. Solar effect is only 69 on May 10th, poised to rise gradually to a peak of 80 May 16th to 23rd. Glenn Hauser concluding World of Radio, 1877.
Hi, this is Radio Prague with me, Ian Willoughby. Today we get an exclusive tour of a magnificent 17th century Prague palace. On the 300th anniversary of the birth of Empress Maria Theresa, we look at how she reformed healthcare in this part of the world. And we have more Czech Williams and soundtrack. But first, I recently had the pleasure to host the exclusive tour of the gorgeous Baroque master Daniel Furlan. Enjoy.